Okay, let's jump right into this deep dive. We are immersing ourselves in one of the most remarkable and I think profoundly intimate transformations documented in the last century.
Yeah, absolutely. Today's narrative, it's all sourced from the rich details you provided, and it's really about identity, art, radical surgery, and just the impossible complexity of love.
Right. We're tracing the often agonizing journey of Einar Wegener as he shed oneself to become Lili Elbe.
And this isn't just a plot summary. We are really trying to synthesize the progression of Einar's awakening, astounding medical path he followed in the 1930s.
And the extraordinary demands this placed on his relationship with his wife, Greta. Our mission here is really to analyze the high cost of authenticity.
Exactly. We need to parse how this very intimate personal truth led to these radical medical decisions and ultimately separated two people who, by all accounts, deeply love each other.
So we're starting precisely where the transformation began, with a small, almost domestic favor that just changed everything.
Okay, so the setting is Copenhagen, 1925.
Right.
The couple lives in a place called the Widow House, which, sounds quiet, maybe a little forgotten. It's just one block from Nyhaven's canal.
And what's Einar like at this point?
Well, he's nearly 35. He's an artist, but his work has this dark intensity. He paints the Kattegat Sea, focusing on winter scenes. So think cruel, churning, dark water.
It's so important to get that image of his art, dark, heavy, very masculine, because it's such a stark contrast to what's about to enter his life, right? The light, the color, the silk.
He's a small, introspective man, almost painfully reserved for the descriptions we have.
And the catalyst for all of this is Greta.
It's Greta. She's also a painter, but she's struggling to finish a portrait of a dancer named Anna. Anna's canceled her sitting, and Greta just needs a stand-in. Specifically, as she puts it, a pair of legs.
And the details of this request are they're so stunningly immediate. She's holding the shoes.
Yeah, the source describes them as senep yellow with pewter buckles. They're not just shoes. They are the physical gateway.
Einar is instantly captivated.
He is. He notes that his own feet are small and arched, almost delicate, and he starts imagining the wrinkled roll of the stocking gliding over the white bone of his ankle.
So this is the first time the outside world is sort of giving him permission to visualize this inner self that he's buried for so long.
Yes, and the experience immediately fills him with this internal heat and shame, but also, at the same time, this hypnotic sense of release.
That duality is what's so remarkable. It's a rush of feeling like something is finally right, mixed with, decades of internalized shame. It's not just excitement.
No, it's a painful recognition of a truth he's tried to extinguish his whole life.
And Greta, maybe she senses this shift. She pushes it a little bit further.
She does. She asks Einar to put on Anna's dress, to accurately capture the hem against her knees. And this is where the shame just dramatically compounds.
The source material is so specific about his physical discomfort. It says he's sweating in the pits of his arms, and his internal monologue is just focused on his body.
Specifically his genitals. He's wishing they were as small and useless as a white radish.
Which is just such a deep, visceral rejection of the physical characteristics that define him as Einar Wegener.
Absolutely. This internal disgust is the psychological fuel for what's coming. And the narrative builds to this critical defining moment of Lili's creation.
The dancer, Anna, finally shows up.
Right. She arrives and interrupts this whole tableau.
Yeah.
She laughs with Greta, and it's not malicious. It's just a casual, familiar laugh between friends. But Einar feels stung. He feels exposed by their easy, shared femininity.
It's the moment of his maximum vulnerability. He's in the dress, feeling completely exposed.
And Greta, maybe instinctively recognizing the pain he's in, she presses a bouquet of white lilies into his arms.
And those rusty pistils leave these dusty prints that cover the garish lump in his groin. It's a perfect metaphor for covering the Einar identity.
It's a visual and symbolic replacement, isn't it? The dark, hard identity is covered by this light, soft symbol of purity. And then Greta gives him the language for this internal truth.
She asks, "Why don't we call you Lili?"
Yeah. It's a question, posed very gently, but it acts as a formal introduction to the self that Einar has been struggling to deny his entire life.
The name legitimizes the feeling. Suddenly, it's real. Lili isn't born from careful self-reflection or some medical consultation. She's born from an accident, a small humiliation, and a really loving external intervention.
But to really get why this identity burst out so violently, you have to go back. You have to travel back into Einar's deeply suppressed past.
Right, and this is where the geography of the sources becomes so critical.
Einar grew up in a place called Bluetooth. a small village in Jutland named for an early Danish king. And the central feature of the environment there was the landscape itself, sphagnum bogs.
Everything was wet.
Everything. The land was saturated, and the source implies that this external environment mirrored his internal discomfort, this constant feeling of being sodden, uncomfortable, trapped in something heavy.
So he felt like he was constantly battling that wetness, trying to manage the discomfort of the world around him.
And it connects directly to how he saw his father. His father was tall, but often ill and bedridden. Einar admired him, but he saw him as being lost in a useless, wheezing, slightly rank shell of a body.
But his admiration was complex, right? He admired the frailty, the illness that made his father soft and quiet with these thick golden curls.
It's a fascinating dynamic. He even tried to mimic his father's sickness, groaning and sighing, just desperate to get the same gentle affection that the family dog Edvard received.
So it suggests that Einar saw illness and frailty, the opposite of traditional male strength, as a way to get acceptable tenderness.
And opposite this bed, dominating the entire room, was this pickled ash wardrobe. It held the clothes of Einar's dead mother. Gabardine dresses, felt skirts with little pebbles sewn into the hem. It was like a sealed treasure chest.
A treasure chest of possibility.
Exactly. And at age 7, he was caught in that forbidden space. He was discovered rummaging through the drawers, and the details are so specific. Amber beads twist around his throat, and a yellow deck scarf on his head, draped like long hair.
And his father's reaction was catastrophic.
Oh, completely. His eyes just sank into his skull with rage. This wasn't a gentle reprimand. It was a physical and emotional act of erasure.
The source says his father delivered a flat punch of his fist, landing on Einar's cheek.
And then slammed the door. He just extinguished that internal identity with sudden brute force.
That punch is such a defining moment. It teaches Einar that expressing that part of himself results in violence and rejection. It forces that identity inward, where it just festers for decades.
The father's rage completely seals off the possibility of a feminine self.
But the source material gives us an even earlier glimpse, doesn't it? Showing this curiosity existed before the wardrobe incident.
It does. We have the childhood confession with his friend Hans. They were playing in the bog, and Hans ties Einar into his grandmother's apron. It's playful, but it's also very intimate.
And Hans touches the nape of his neck and asks, "You never played this game." It suggests this natural, unquestioned acceptance of this behavior, in a safe space.
Until the father discovers them. He beats Einar and slams the door shut on that moment, too.
But as Hans runs away across the bog, he sings a song about the pretty little sun.
And that's so crucial, because it juxtaposes the violent paternal rejection with this secret, tender acceptance from a friend. The identity immediately gets linked to both immense pain and this irresistible external validation.
So Einar learns very early on that Lili is a secret, beautiful truth that he has to pay for with suffering. This foundation of suppressed desire, trauma, and a sense of geographical discomfort is the engine for everything that comes later.
That absolutely sets the psychological stage for Einar. But now we have to look at Greta.
Yes, she's so often seen as just the wife, the enabler, but the source material gives her this equally complex and really tragic personal history that explains why she was capable of accepting the unimaginable risk they eventually took.
Greta Wad was not a simple Danish painter. She was the daughter of an American embassy official, raised partly in Pasadena, California. An orange heiress, the source calls her.
And her whole identity was defined by rejecting that society she came from.
She despised relying on any antecedents. She wanted to be just Greta, the artist, not Miss Wad, the diplomat's daughter.
And that rebellion started early. There was the butcher wagon incident.
Right, in Pasadena. She rode with the butcher boy down to Wilshire Boulevard, which was a huge society scandal. They were worried about being on the society page and even, ridiculously, having trouble getting a second source of meat because of the gossip.
That incident just confirms her desire for freedom and unconventionality. It shaped her whole relationship with her parents, who responded by trying to convert her stable into a garage.
An attempt to box in her freedom. And it's this independent, rebellious spirit that led her to Einar at the Royal Academy.
Where she was outspoken and curious, but Einar was awkward. He kept refusing her invitations because he was uncomfortable around a rich girl.
But she saw past all the ridiculous rumors the other students were spreading about him. That he was from a family of gnomes or was born in a bog. She saw the quiet, intense man underneath all that.
But the real grounding element for her later choices, I think, is her first marriage.
Absolutely. Before Einar, there was Teddy Cross, a ceramicist from Bakersfield. She loved him for his art, his quiet confidence, his stubbly face. And crucially, he refused to be intimidated by her powerful mother.
But Teddy represents an earlier tragedy.
A profound one. They moved to Bakersfield, lived in a small Spanish house, and they suffered the loss of their stillborn baby boy named Carlisle, who was buried in the strawberry fields of Teddy's parents.
That experience just establishes Greta's profound intimacy with terminal loss.
And then, tragically, that loss is followed by the dark period of Teddy's tuberculosis. The sources paint a grim picture. A hacking cough, sheets soaked in sweat, coughing up thick clots of blood.
And Teddy, in his pride and fear, refused to see her family doctor.
Yeah, Dr. Richardson. He was afraid of a fancy person's doctor. He wanted to die on his own terms, defined by his art and his independence, not by the wealth that he had rejected.
This refusal of external help is such a key psychological link for Greta. In his final agonizing moments, Teddy begged her to euthanize him, to grant him agency in his own death by holding a rubber pillow over his face.
And she refused. She threw the pillow out the window. She became a widow, holding his cold hand, realizing he died by his own will, but not on the terms he had explicitly asked for. She watched the man she loved suffer, trapped, and denied the release he begged for.
And this experience is absolutely paramount to the transformation we are talking about, because when Einar, trapped in his own failing, undesirable male body, later seeks radical surgery,
Greta can accept the extreme risk of death, because it's a choice. It's an act of agency. It's the choice Teddy was denied.
Einar is choosing a life, even if it might kill him, which is fundamentally different from watching Teddy waste away, trapped and without a voice.
The contrast is so stark. Teddy died trapped in his male body, seeking non-existence. Lili risks death to realize her female self, desperately seeking existence. And it's this historical weight that allows Greta to support the move to Paris and the deepening crisis.
So, by 1929, they've left Copenhagen for Paris. They're in the Marais on the Rue Vieille du Temple. And the duality is no longer a secret, right? Lili is demanding a public life.
She is. She starts appearing publicly, strolling with Greta in the park, even going to a Radhuset ball. And Greta, ever the guardian, would patrol the paths for potential suitors, knowing what Lili could stir in young Danish men.
It suggests Lili had this magnetic, undeniable presence.
It does. And the narrative emphasizes the playful aspect of this early duality. They communicated with secret notes where Greta would advise Lili not to worry, assuring her that everyone just thought she was Einar's quiet cousin from Bluetooth.
It was an adventure, a game, but the identity was solidifying.
But the game had a devastating consequence for Einar. As Lili became more real, Einar started to dissipate. When Greta would mention Lili to friends, Einar's face would just pinch up. It's a clear sign of psychological dissociation.
A profound internal split. The source even notes it was as if their little secret were really just Greta's little secret. Einar was retreating, ceding consciousness to Lili.
And the consequences started manifesting physically. The bleeding returns.
Right. Lili's first romantic encounter, a kiss with a young man named Henrik, ends with a sudden nosebleed.
Followed by this loud laughter from Greta and Anna, almost like they're externalizing and dismissing the trauma of it. But Einar's sporadic bleeding continues, and it troubles Greta deeply, triggering those painful memories of Teddy Cross's final months.
The body is failing under the pressure of the suppressed self, and Einar completely stops painting.
Completely. His dark, masculine visions of the bog just cease, because, as the source says, he had a hard time imagining the bog. That environment, which represented his original, stifled self, it just doesn't resonate anymore.
He keeps his studio meticulously tidy. The art is gone, replaced by order and emptiness.
And meanwhile, Greta's career explodes. She's doing magazine sketches for stylish publications like La Vie Parisienne. Her success is in direct contrast to Einar's internal implosion.
The identity of Einar Wegener, the artist, is dying, and that forces this underlying psychological drive to find a new, radical form of expression.
Which brings us to a really crucial and deeply revealing segment of Einar's journey. His exploration of womanhood in the hidden corners of Paris.
Right, he develops this nearly daily habit of visiting Madame Jasmine Carton's peep show on the Rue de la Nuit, specifically cell number 3.
And this is not portrayed as just a search for arousal. He goes there for deep, almost clinical study. He wanted, quite literally, to examine women to see how their bodies attached limb to trunk and produced a female.
That objective, analytical approach is so essential to understanding his state of mind. He's studying specific features, the green flow of veins on the underside of forearms, the way the pad of flesh beneath the navel reminded him of a ring-bearer's pillow.
He's cataloging anatomical realities. He's trying to understand the construction of the identity he's seeking. But the voyeuristic study quickly escalates.
Into a defining moment of internal transformation.
Exactly. He pays triple the fee to watch a live public liaison. It involves a young, stringy adolescent boy. And Einar witnesses the boy's erection, described as pointing up like a spear, and then the climax.
This exposure to explicit male sexuality, seen through the lens of someone who internally identifies as female, it just crystallizes everything for him. He looks down and discovers a salty stain in his own lap.
And the desire converts from an abstract observation into a concrete sexual reality. He realizes that he wanted the boy to do that to Lili.
This is the point of no return. Lili is no longer a costume or a character. She's a fully formed sexual being with desires and needs. The identity is complete now, demanding external acknowledgement.
And what does he do next? He takes this horrifyingly bold step of performing for himself in that same space. He goes back to cell number 3, and he pulls the second window shade, the one he had never touched before.
And he sees his own reflection wearing Lili's oyster gray silk camisole, and he feels pretty.
He removes the rest of his clothes and performs privately for the people, feeling it was the most natural thing in the world. He's moved from studying womanhood to enacting it.
Using a space designed for objectification as a private theater for self-realization, it's incredible.
And the final confrontation in that room connects this new identity right back to the original trauma of his youth. A man enters, finds Einar in his underwear, and reveals an erection.
And Einar is inches away, and in that intense moment, his mind drifts back to his childhood in Jutland.
This link is so powerful. The forbidden desire, the violent rejection from his father, the sexual reality of Lili, it all converges in that one dark, confined space. The man leaves, but the moment solidifies that Lili is a fully realized being, ready for life she just can't have as Einar.
And this constant internal war, it's deteriorating his health. The game is over for Greta. He has severe nausea. He's reluctant to eat. They have to seek medical help.
Their first attempt is a desperate failure. The Danish misdiagnosis with Dr. Hexler.
Hexler is a physical specialist, right?
Right. He examines Einar, says he's perfectly healthy, and in a complete dismissal of the psychological depth of the crisis, asks if the problem is just trouble in the marriage.
And his solution is chillingly primitive.
He subjects Einar to a strong X-ray, claiming it will look inside you, it will treat you. I mean, the medical ignorance of the 1920s is just laid bare. They literally thought a powerful dose of radiation could somehow burn out the problem.
The frustration for Greta must have been immense. She realizes Hexler knew very little, if anything at all.
Meanwhile, her brother, Carlisle, arrives in Paris and is deeply concerned. He starts searching for progressive doctors, and he finds Dr. McBride, Dr. May, and crucially, Dr. Busson.
And Busson offers an irreversible destructive solution.
A lobotomy. The goal is to force Einar to choose between his two identities by surgically altering the connection between his thoughts and his feelings. Busson sets out sharp little drills on a cart. A horrifying image.
And Carlisle, perhaps echoing Einar's own desperation, thinks Einar secretly wants this to resolve this once and for all.
Einar is so desperate for an end to the suffering that the destruction of his mind seems preferable.
But Greta, remembering Teddy Cross, the man who begged for agency and was denied it, she refuses the path of destruction. She can't allow Einar's consciousness to be destroyed, even if it brings peace.
So she has to find a constructive, transformative alternative. And this leads her to Professor Bolk in Dresden.
Bolk is the breakthrough figure, a dual specialist in surgery and psychology, renowned for his miraculous wartime work, having saved 500 limbs and 500 lives. He has credibility.
And his presentation to Greta is the moment she commits to the transformation. He shows her a male anatomy diagram and focuses on the empty cavity of the male pelvis. He suggests the anatomical possibility of physical rearrangement.
For Greta, this is the superior moral choice. Transforming Einar into Lili through dangerous surgery, a path that risked death but affirmed agency, was fundamentally better than allowing Busson to destroy Einar's mind.
Her love, her trauma, her respect for autonomous choice, it all converges in this terrifying decision. The search for answers now becomes a quest for physical completion.
So, having made the choice, Einar takes the train to Germany in January 1930. The flat brown fields and turned soil are described as being silver with frost, a cold, almost spiritual pilgrimage.
And crucially, he decides to enter the Dresden Municipal Women's Clinic, the DMWC, as Lili. The source insists this wasn't an active decision, but just a natural progression of events.
The Einar identity had already faded. Only Lili remained.
And when the nurse, Frau Krebs described with rosy cheeks suggesting this wholesome practicality, asks for her name, Lili, thinking of the river flowing past the city, names herself Lili Elbe.
Elbe, the river, constantly flowing. It's a perfect symbol.
The DMWC itself is a fascinating environment. It's mainly a maternity clinic filled with pregnant girls. Lili takes tea in the winter garden, the solarium, and she feels interested, and she's longing for acceptance. She befriends a woman named Ursula, who's pregnant by a mixing boy from a chocolate house.
So Lili sees the clinic not as a hospital for illness, but as a society she wants to join, a place where female identity is realized and defined, often through profound physical change.
It's the ultimate validation of her identity, to be surrounded by women in the process of natural biological transformation.
Before the surgery, Bulk reassures Einar.
He does. He confirms that he understands the profound desire. And he mentions a previous patient, Sieglin Tannenhaus, a train conductor who was too scared to go through with it. This acts as a final test of Lili's resolve.
And she is determined not to share that fate.
The first surgery is described with clinical precision and shocking immediacy. This is pioneering, brutal stuff for 1930. Lili is wheeled into the operating room before dawn.
And Bulk performs the first stage. Einar Wegener is transformed.
The description is unflinching. The surgeon scooped the 2 testicles from the pruned hammock of his scrotum. It's a precise physical severing of the Einar identity.
The immediate aftermath is horrifying.
Lili wakes up screaming in inflamed, agonizing pain. She's immediately strapped to the bed with ropes and sandbags to prevent spasms. This is not a peaceful recovery. It's a battle against the body's trauma.
For weeks, she's in a morphine-laced, semi-conscious state. She's battling infection, vomiting, hemorrhaging. The physical cost is immense.
And Greta, who committed to this risk, arrives to face the devastating consequences of her choice.
When she arrives, she has to ask for Lili Elbe. It's a small but significant moment of acknowledgement.
And Bulk is forced to confess how severe the situation is. He admits he had to open up her abdomen because of a complication, an infection that had taken hold.
And Greta is just overcome with shock and guilt. The source notes she felt his soul passing through her.
Once again, she's standing over a dying man she loves, believing she's chosen the path that led to his destruction. Once again, Greta Wad was a widow. This connects Einar's near-death experience directly back to the tragedy of Teddy Cross.
She is facing the consequences of choosing agency over safety. The emotional weight of watching Lili suffer through this is almost too much for her to bear.
Yet, despite the near-fatal first operation, Lili is utterly determined to proceed. Bulk prepares her for the second stage, the graft of ovarian tissue.
Lili is now whispery and still, almost spiritual in her focus. She calls Bulk a man capable of miracles. She's completely surrendered to the process.
But the physical transformation isn't complete yet. Bulk later informs her there's one last piece of Einar's body remaining. A roll of skin that has to be removed and refolded.
She's horrified by the clinical details. She closes her eyes against the shame and the violence of the description.
Yet she retains her determination, because that remaining skin roll represents the incompleteness of the Lili identity.
Her ambition drives her through the horror. Lili asserts her ultimate goal, explaining to Greta, "I want to have children with my husband."
Which is such a profoundly poignant, if medically impossible, desire. And Greta, grounded in reality and her own loss, is skeptical. Nobody can make a man pregnant.
That line just highlights the immense medical and imaginative leap that Lili is asking the world to take. She's not just seeking identity confirmation, she's seeking a biological destiny.
And it's during this complex recovery that a visitor arrives. Hans, Einar's childhood friend from the bog.
His presence in the winter garden with Lili and Greta is this vital external validation.
He confirms what Greta has suspected, but maybe hadn't heard aloud. He always knew. He tells her, it's who he is, right? How can I blame him for who he is?
That acceptance from the figure of Einar's past, the one who sang about the pretty little son, is the final critical step in severing Einar's identity from its original shame. Lili is validated.
But the cost has been steep, and the most dangerous procedures are still waiting. And this leads us to the eventual, and I think inevitable, separation of Lili and Greta.
So Lili and Greta returned to Copenhagen in 1931. The widow house is dilapidated. The caretaker had neglected it. A physical reflection of the neglect their relationship has suffered.
But Lili begins to fully inhabit her new life. Her government papers now say she is Lili Elbe, and she starts working at a department store. She is integrating into society. She's no longer a secret cousin.
And it's here that she reconnects with Henrik.
Henrik, the young man from the Rådhuset ball years ago, whose kiss ended in Einar's nosebleed. He's now handsome, successful, selling his paintings in New York.
and their relationship quickly becomes serious. Lili decides to share her deepest, most complex secret with him. She tells him everything about Bulk, the nearly impossible transformation.
And Henrik's reaction is the ultimate acceptance Lili's have been seeking. He doesn't flinch. He embraces her fully, and he says, "I'm in love with an extraordinary woman." He recognizes the strength and courage of her journey.
This acceptance prompts the next final step. Henrik asks her to marry him. And this proposal forces Lili to confront her driving desire for completion, the dream of marriage and motherhood.
She realizes she has to go back to Dresden for the final, most dangerous operation. To be truly complete for a marriage and the possibility of having children, she has to risk everything one more time.
While Lili is planning her future, Greta is grappling with this profound loss of her own identity. Her artistic life just suffers immensely.
Her painting becomes hurried and poorly planned. She lets days pass without touching her easel. She was Einar's muse, his co-conspirator, his guardian. But now that Lili is independent, Greta's role has vanished.
The loss of Einar is the loss of her artistic inspiration. She is now simply Greta, the widow of a person who no longer exists.
During this internal crisis, Hans, who's now Baron Axgell, becomes a constant presence. He brings a sense of stability. He notes the local art market is collapsing, galleries are closing, Europe is entering a very uncertain era.
And he proposes a drastic solution.
He says Greta should move back to Pasadena with him, return to her roots, escape the chaos, find a new life defined by her own history, not Einar's.
And she's hesitant. She asks, who would look after Lili? That maternal instinct is still strong.
But Hans convinces her that Lili's grown, independent, and focused on her new life with Henrik.
The final psychological seal on Einar's fate happens when Greta and Hans visit Bluetooth, Einar's childhood home. Greta looks at his father's grave mound marked simply Wegener.
That moment confirms the historical reality that Einar is gone. Her time as Einar's wife in Europe is definitively over. She chooses her own path.
She plans to return to California with Hans. Their departure is marked by this sweeping visual transition. They board the Deutscher Aeroloid for Pasadena.
And as they taxi, they see the Graf Zeppelin, described as long and stormy gray, like an enormous ribbed bullet, preparing for its polar flight. It symbolizes this changing world, flying away from the old, wet bogs and the tragic romance of early 20th century Europe.
Greta chooses the future, and she leaves Lili to choose her own destiny.
And Lili, planning to meet Henrik in New York by September, prepares for her final, most dangerous journey back to the DMWC. She's accompanied by Carlisle, Greta's brother.
Before she leaves the widow house, she confronts the final, silent legacy of Einar. Greta asks about his paintings.
And Lili finds the rolled-up canvases in the studio and spreads them across the floorboards.
And they are small, beautiful scenes of the bog, hoarfrost, peat moss, the blue-gray soil. Einar's dark scenes of the sea are gone, replaced by these intimate, quiet, tender landscapes of his original home.
The disconnect is immediate and profound. Lili doesn't recognize the place. The memory feels distant, like it belongs to an ancestor.
She realizes the paintings belong wholly to Einar. She can't take them with her. His inner world, his unique artistic vision, is now separate and totally inaccessible to Lili Elbe.
Einar is definitively dead. His legacy resides only in these beautiful, forgotten landscapes of his childhood trauma. So Lili takes the train back to the DMWC for the last procedure, the removal of the final roll of skin. She still has hope for children.
The infection returns immediately.
It's devastating and relentless. Lili falls into excruciating pain, hemorrhaging, slipping in and out of consciousness for 6 long weeks. The radical nature of the final surgery is just too much for her body.
Anna and Carlisle arrive to see her. Professor Bulk, exhausted, admits there's nothing more he can do.
And in a final act of profound love and agency, Anna and Carlisle defy the clinic's rules. They bundle Lili into her wheelchair and they take her out onto the Brühlsche Terrace, overlooking the Elbe River and the magnificent city of Dresden.
Looking over the world she fought so hard to enter, Lili has this moment of crystalline realization. She understands that all the people she loved, Henrik, Anna, Carlisle, Hans, and Greta, are each, in his own way, partially responsible for the birth of Lili Elbe.
But she understands the ultimate, solitary truth of her chosen path, that the rest of the journey, even unto death, she has to undergo alone. Now she knew what Greta had meant. The rest Lili would have to undergo alone. She achieved her ultimate identity, but at the cost of Einar's life and ultimately her own.
The duality of Einar and Lili and the cost of total transformation is the profound takeaway from this deep dive. Einar's original curiosity, rooted in that wet, uncomfortable environment of Bluetooth and sealed by his father's violence, led directly to Lili's birth.
Through the accidental artistry of Greta, Lili achieved physical definition, acceptance, the promise of love with Henrik. She got the agency she craved, but only through a series of agonizing, dangerous operations. The very risk that Greta had feared for her first husband, Teddy.
Meanwhile, Greta, the ultimate enabler, found her own separate peace and reclaimed her identity, escaping the emotional and artistic stagnation of Europe by returning to the familiar, sunny society of Pasadena with Hans.
And the source material really forces us to confront the profound irony of Einar's artistic legacy. He was an artist consumed by darkness, yet his final silent work, those small, beautiful, quiet scenes of the bog, were ultimately judged by Lili as belonging to an ancestor.
So what does this all mean for us? The pursuit of the authentic self in this instance required the destruction of the former self and, tragically, the body that housed it. The person who made the journey possible, Greta, she had to sacrifice her own artistic identity and her marriage to facilitate it.
We're left with this final provocative thought for you to mull over. Lili Elbe achieved acceptance and total physical definition, but in doing so, she relegated the man who enabled her existence, Einar Wegener and his beautiful silent art, into the realm of the forgotten past. What value does the legacy of a self hold when the vibrant chosen self transcends and discards it? And what does that demand of the people who love you? That's a deep question for you to consider as you reflect on this extraordinary narrative.